Often in industrial design projects, we will need to create product renders that show multiple sizes, finishes, and camera angles. Today, we will be achieving this using Blender and the Render Plus add-on. For this tutorial, I've created a simple coffee table that has two different sizes and finishes. I'm going to create another window by dragging across. Next, I will hit Shift A and we'll add a camera. We'll go onto our left side here and go to our camera view. Then we'll go to our X-axis. I like to always zero out the location and rotation of the camera. And then we will move it to be about 1 meter high and a little bit further away. Let's change the focal length to 90. This will just reduce the amount of perspective on the legs. Okay. Go to render properties, change the samples to 500. Make sure that your GPU is activated. Next, we'll go to our output properties and change to a standard 2K resolution to 048. And we'll just copy that across to Y. Okay, might zoom in a little bit there, or even change the angle slightly. Now let's go to our camera properties again and change the viewport display passive out. I think that's how you say it. Pretty tricky, that one, to 1. The next step is to set up our product animation. So we're going to hit Shift A and we're going to create an empty. Let's drop that empty into our coffee table collection. Select both of our objects and then our empty last and hit Control P to set parent to object. Let's just rename this object. Now we will set up our animation. First step is to create the frame range end to 8 and the frame rate to a custom number of 1. This is going to create 8 separate frames for our 8 different views, each at 45-degree angles. So the next step is to drag this up here and go to our timeline. I'm going to right click on the Z axis of our rotation and insert a single keyframe. Go to our final frame and change this to 315 because 360 minus 45 equals 315 because we don't want to double up on our camera views. I'm going to insert a keyframe there. Next, let's make sure that this timeline or graph is not curved like this, because when it's curved like this, it's not going to be consistent. So I'm just going to drag these in here and do the same for this one. There are other ways to do this to create linear interpolation, but this is quite a visual way of doing it. Now let's repeat this for the large configuration. So again, I'm going to create a empty. Go back to our first frame. move the empty into our large coffee table collection. Make sure it's named correctly. Select our two objects and hit Control P. Select the large coffee table and then the small. Hit Control L, and we're just going to link that animation data, which will carry it across to the large configuration. So if we move our slider, you can see they are moving at 45-degree angles. For the environment setup, we're going to go to our render properties, film, and just make sure that transparent is unchecked. We're going to add a floor plane and make it about 5 by 5 meters. We're going to then go into the object properties of our floor plane and visibility and make a shadow catcher. Let's create a new environment by dragging up another window. Shader editor, world, create a new world data. First, we're going to create a mix shader. I've got my Node Wrangler add-on installed, so I'm going to click Add Texture Setup and add a HDRI. I'm using this bathroom HDRI. Now let's add a light path node and plug it into back. Duplicate our background node and change it to white. This should create a full white background behind our products. Next, let's change the rotation of this HDRI. $187 looks good to me. Next, we will create our 4 scenes with 2 sizes and 2 different finishes. Firstly, we will change our graph editor down here to our outliner and click scenes. When rendering product families, it's really important to have a good naming convention. I've often saved this in a spreadsheet, which allows me to track and also copy and paste each of the names into the Blender file. I've got an example here which shows the 4 different configurations. And I'm going to copy and paste the names into each of the scenes. Click New Scene, Full Copy. Now we can cycle through each of our scenes. So let's make sure that only the small configuration is viewed and the timber material is also on the product. Let's go to our second scene here. Copy from our spreadsheet and rename it. Again, make sure that only this is viewed. And let's change the material of objects to marble. Let's create another full copy. Take our floor plane out of our small coffee table collection. Here we can adjust the camera slightly. Make another full copy. Make sure this reflects the name here, so timber. Now make sure that your Render Plus add-on is installed and activated. We're going to go to our output properties, scroll down to Render Plus Batch, and then hit the Quick Batch drop-down menu and just select Scenes. Now that will automatically add all of our scenes into the menu here. We're going to change these to animation by clicking on this icon. By default, the files will render into the same folder as the blend file, but we just want to make sure that the output path is correct by clicking change output paths. Click change outputs again. Let's go start batch.